Welcome everybody and happy summer. Just want to make sure you can all hear me okay. Give me a thumbs up, let me know. I have new old headphones on. Okay, if I'm not hearing anything. Okay, no news is good news. All right, so I just want to welcome everyone to the 24th episode of ARPchives Live. I can't believe how many episodes we've had. This all started in the pandemic. We don't have a regular schedule, mostly due to the fact I still have my day job and it's a little hard, as we all know. But that being said, I'm really pleased to have Rick Rieger on the show, and I will be introducing him after I do the usual announcements that we have to have. So on a personal announcement, I'm going to be going to the Montreal Jazz Fest with my husband, and if anyone's going, send me a message. Give me any tips or anything like that. I haven't been to Montreal since the last century, so that should be quite interesting. On a foundation note, a couple of minor events. The first one is not minor, but just some occasions that I want to mention. We will be returning to the New England Synth Fest. The next date is July 14th, and that is at the planetarium at the Science Museum in Boston, Massachusetts. And I'll be there with a few of my colleagues. I'm really excited to be there. I wasn't able to be there the last time. I heard it was an absolutely rousing success, and I'm going to be taking one of my dad's instruments with me, and we'll also have a instrument or two from the Arps for All collection. So if you live near Boston and you're around on the 14th, please come by, and it's newenglandsynthfest.org. Let's see what else. Next week would have been the 90th birthday of Joe Zawinul, and we have some really great products that we made last year at the 2600 Synthposium, and I'll be having a special sale on some Joe Zawinul stuff. So if you're a fan, please definitely check out the website, the Facebook, all of the usual places on July 7th, the great Joe Zawinul's 90th birthday. And I think that covers it. All right, let's go ahead and introduce. Let me see if I got yeah, there we go. Rick, hello.
Hello.
Hi. I've been trying to get Rick on the show for probably since we met online in 2019. I'm pretty sure. I'm
Yeah.
really glad in some ways you're doing it now, because my skills have definitely improved since then.
Hopefully mine have too.
Yeah. Well, you keep coming out with some amazing stuff, and the last batch of videos that you put out, I said we just got to get you on. We just got to get you on the show. So I'm so glad that you're here.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here.
And nice T-shirt. He's wearing the colors. All right. So one of the things that I really enjoy about Rick is that he seamlessly integrates so many different kinds of synthesizers and sounds together in these just sort of breathtaking. I don't want to call it ambient. I can't put your music into a pigeonhole, which I really like. I like that. I think it's an advantage because you can touch so many different people's ears with what you do, and people come in without prejudice. One of the things I also noticed when I first met Rick is that he always is posting these beautiful abstract paintings with his videos sometimes, and on his Bandcamp. And we got into a conversation because abstract painting is both something that's on my mom's side of the family and something that I have been doing on and off for many years as well. So it struck a chord with me. No pun intended. Sorry, can't help it. So I asked him if we could use some of these images that I could put some of the soundtracks that don't have any video to them. So as you all know and have been patient with me, suffering through Premiere Pro beginner stuff. All right, now let's go ahead and take it to you. So you are right now in Chicago, is that correct?
Yeah, just outside Chicago.
Is that where you're from originally?
Yes. I went to college in Massachusetts, but I've been here otherwise, aside from those 4 years.
Did you go to college for music or something else?
No, I think I wanted to, but I don't think my parents were particularly excited about that. So I ended up at a school that it was College of Holy Cross, which is in Worcester, Massachusetts, and they didn't have a music department. They did have a fine arts department, and they had a composer who actually has a bit of a reputation at the time, and even still, I think I see some recordings of works by his. And they had a really talented music professor there, Diana Waldbauer, whose father had led the string quartet that premiered some of Bela Bartok's works.
Oh,
Some
wow.
of his, yeah. So it was a weird. It's kind of a long story how I ended up there, but they didn't have a music department, but they had some fairly significant music people there.
My father loved Bartok. Loved.
As do I.
He's a, I always thought of him. I mean, my personal was like an acquired taste, but
Well, there's probably a lot of music that I like that would fall into that category.
yeah, he liked a lot of difficult, Mahler, Sibelius,
Yeah,
etc. But yeah.
yeah.
So
I could probably get even more difficult than that, but
I bet. Are you familiar? I'm trying to think of the early synthesizer composers that used Buchla, and I'm drawing a blank right now at the moment.
oh, Morton
Wild War,
Subotnick.
Mort Sabatnik, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, I was aware of those recordings when they came out. I don't think I owned any of them, but those were the days when FM radio was really amazing, and you would listen to these shows where you wouldn't hear a DJ talk for like half an hour,
Mm.
and you'd hear. I would remember hearing, Tomita, stuff by Subotnick would be interspersed with like Can and things like that. So I was aware of it and knew of it, but I didn't even know what a Buchla synthesizer. I didn't actually at the time. I didn't know what synthesizer he was creating that stuff on, because all I knew at that time was that there was Moog and ARP. That I didn't even know Buchla existed.
Yeah, when I was a little girl, I thought you had that synthesizer companies had to have weird names with strange consonants. Buchla, Moog, ARP, like what's it? so
Yeah.
so tell me about your. You said you didn't know about other synthesizers. So obviously, your interest in music had come before synthesizers. Tell me about that. Tell us about your initial music journey and how that led to synthesizers.
So by music journey, do you mean my journey as a musician, or my just being a fan of music?
I think it's all
All
together.
right.
Yeah.
Well, I've been told by I mean, I was one of those kids that I just gravitated to the radio early on. And my parents were not very artsy. So, like, they listened to, like, Barbara Streisand, Edie Gourmet. I guess the Fifth Dimension was kind of like as hip as they got. But I grew up in a household that had an extended family in it, and so me and my brothers and my parents lived on the first floor of a two flat. But my grandfather, her dad, lived upstairs with her younger siblings. So I have an aunt who's only 8 years older than I am, and I have an uncle who's only 12 years older than I am. So when I was a little kid, they were just entering their teen years, and they were listening to like the Stones and the Beatles and all in like top 40 AM radio stuff. So that was really the first music that I gravitated to, and immediately I really liked that stuff compared to what my parents would play. So
As you were supposed to.
as
I,
it was intended.
yeah.
So that was really like, and even today, like if I hear like some band on college radio that's doing something that's sort of Beatlesque or British invasion-y, I'm immediately a sucker for it.
Yeah, yeah. I know what you mean. There's a couple of the artists that we've had on here remind me of that stuff. That really great poppy pop stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when did synthesizers first become more of an influence? Was there a particular artist that you found influential?
It was really just as I got to high school, I really got into progressive rock, not surprisingly, and even though I'm well aware of like the sins against good taste that Prague occasionally committed, I still, liked it. I liked it then. I still like it. Um, you know, I was a big Yes Genesis. Even Emerson, Lake and Palmer, King Crimson, who didn't have any synthesizers, but I was a big fan of all that stuff, Gentle Giant, and even some stuff sort of further weirder than that. So it was through like the prog rock guys that I was became aware of synthesizers, and that coincided with my taking piano lessons.
Hmm.
And so when I finally bought some of these records and saw pictures of a synthesizer, not only did I think the sound was cool, but I assumed wrongly that it was designed as a keyboard instrument. And I was like, oh, how cool that I'm learning keyboards, and there's this keyboard instrument that can make these crazy, you can design your own sounds, it sounds like. So it was through prog rock and that kind of thing that I got interested in it. And then as I learned more about it, I mean, the allure of synthesizers way back when is really the same as the allure today. Like, what other instrument allows you to design how it sounds basically from scratch?
True, true, true. So that's you became adept at keyboards, and what?
Well, yeah, I'll leave it at that, but I think that it's open to some questions.
Yeah, the proverbial piano lessons. I can relate, but it what it does is enables you to have a language to work with. At least
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that that's really helpful. I don't know if you caught the video of my dad speaking a few weeks ago, but basically
No.
saying we found some old vintage film of him in Needham on Needham Street in Newton. It was the second ARP factory, and he talks about how most people that want to be musicians feel limited, and that the synthesizer helps to keep them from being limited. And he found
Yeah.
he never considered himself a virtuoso, though he could play amazing Chopin on the piano, and I thought he was wonderful. But he felt that the synthesizer enabled an average musician to really have amazing
Yeah.
possibilities. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I during my high school years, I also got really into 20th century modernist classical music,
Mm.
and even listening to people who at that time were contemporary composers like George Crumb or Christoph Penderecki and Yanis Xenakis, people like that. And as I learned more about that type of music, I learned that in the 40s and 50s there had been this really desperate search by some of those types of composers to get away from the orchestra and get away from the conventional instruments and try to find other ways to create sound. And they computers. There was the RCA synthesizer was a famous massive piece of equipment that was not really like what we think of as synthesizers, but they had to go through an incredibly laborious process to put pieces together. And so I think that hunger for something other than what you've been given was there for a long time. And when synthesizers became more affordable or reachable for more people, that really opened up the floodgates, kind of.
So I would like to take us right into one of your pieces, and this is my recent favorite of yours. I call it the Gong piece. Rick and I were just joking that he doesn't have names for most of his pieces, so I'm gonna play it first because I don't like to ask. I don't want. I want people to feel it and experience it, and then we can get into some questions about this.
Okay.
Right. That was so delicious.
Thanks.
There's something about a gong that, well, they have gong. They call them gong baths, correct? You know about these?
Yeah, oh yeah, there's like a whole field of sound healing that they're used in. I don't know anything about that. I'm probably violating every rule of sound healing that you can, but yeah, it's interesting. I for pretty much forever, I just thought that gongs did two things. They made like a gigantic metallic crash that was really cool at the end of a concert, or they could create like this, huge swell. And then there's a guy on, he actually did a lot of synthesizer stuff on YouTube, John L. Rice, and I subscribed to his videos, and he had this video, which I was shocked. It was just a video of him using those friction mallets, they're called, rubbing it along the surface of the gong, and they create like all these crazy overtones and harmonics. And I was just like mesmerized by this video. And then I looked into it some more, and I started buying some of those. And where you hold the mallet and how big the head is and how much pressure you put on it, all like give you totally different harmonics or and overtones. And so like the gong, now I think of a gong as like an ancient synthesizer, really, because
Mm.
it can be manipulated to create all different types of sounds that I had no knowledge of as of like 3 years ago.
I love that. An ancient synthesizer. Yes.
Yeah, it is. It honestly.
So, I'm going to start off questions because I certainly would love to know how you constructed this. I want to pause for a moment just to remind everyone to like our YouTube channel and tell everyone about this because this is some really really amazing stuff. So, explain in how you integrate the gong with the synthesizers. How is it? Is it a recording over each other? Is it sampled in? I'm
No,
throwing
it's
out.
all it's all just recording in layers and
Layers.
overdubbing, and it's not none of it. I mean, like the video actually, though that is the live video of how I was recording, how it was recorded.
Okay.
It's so um, for the soundscapes, which I call improvs, but usually I just begin by going to either the 2600 or the VCS3 and just exploring and you know and if I get to where I hear a sound that I think is interesting or a texture or something, I'll just like fiddle around with it for a while, leave it alone for a night or two, come back, see if I still like it, and if I do, then I'll record like a 6-minute block of that sound, and then it's just kind of like thinking about, well, what other sounds might work well with this, provide some sort of contrast to it. And they're interesting pieces because I have no idea when I start them. I mean, they're interesting to me. When I start them, I have no idea literally how they're going to go or where they're going to end up.
Wow. getting some comments there. Apparently you had to wait. You were on a 8-year wait list for the VCS3.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I thought I knew they had a website, but at the time, like 10 years ago, they were only, it looked like they were only repairing existing gear. They weren't making anything new. And then at some point, I saw some reference, I cannot remember where, that someone said, oh, EMS, because it's the same company that made them back in the day. They're going to make a limited run editions of the VCS3 and the Synthy AKS. And if you want to get on the wait list, it's like they send them $150 or whatever. So I went on the website, emailed. It was Robin, who was still there, who'd been there for a long time, and said, "Is this real?" And he said, "Yeah, we're going to make a limited run. Send me $150." He goes, "I'm not going to cash it. We're just want people to put up earnest money." So I did, and then literally like 6 years went by, and I didn't hear anything.
Wow.
And I would occasionally see references to people online saying, "Hey, my VCS3 finally showed up today," but they were like really few and far between. And so I just assumed this wasn't going to happen. And then out of the blue, like after 7 years, I get an email from Robin saying, "Hey, are you still interested? Your number, I think it was like number 12 on the list." I said, "Yes." And he said, "Okay, just checking." And then I didn't hear anything for like another 2 years. And then all of a sudden he wrote back and he's like, "Hey, you're number 5. So if you want one, you can get one. But, now let's, settle up with some money and that kind of thing." So I couldn't, it was great, but it was a weird process, that's for sure.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's definitely one of the more interesting synthesizer acquisition stories I've heard, and I've heard some pretty interesting ones. Oh my goodness. Uh, um, just like painting. Oh, let's bring this back around to the paintings for a minute. Do you find any kind of inspiration from visuals to your music? Do you like to have visuals around you? Or is it
Um,
a parallel love?
it's kind of a parallel thing. I mean, when I see what you did to my video earlier, yes, I love that. I need to hire you to do it all the time for my videos. Um, I actually, because we've talked about art before, and I think, unfortunately, I may have, the impression might have been created that I'm really knowledgeable about art, and I'm actually not. Like, music and literature were the two things from like when I was a teenager I was totally obsessed with. Art has been something that like has been more of an adult, continuing adult education process for me. And so I've been learning as I've been going, and I have a few friends who I became friends later in life with, who are artists, and I try to learn from them and listen to them talk about what they do. So I think I'm developing a better appreciation, but that's been a work in process for a while now.
Gotcha. Well, you don't have to be knowledgeable about something to love something, and
Yeah.
I think
Oh
that
yeah. Sometimes the more you know, sometimes people say the less I love it now. So
there's that idea of beginner's mind that they have in Buddhism, where
yes.
it I mean, it's sort of self-explanatory, but you're open. You don't, the elitist
Yeah.
has no options. The,
Yeah. By the way, since you interjected that, I've been practicing Zen Buddhism for like 9 years, and that
oh.
whole beginner's mind thing sounds great, but it's really freaking hard. So just so you
Zen Buddhism, especially, I had some experiences with that. The beginning of the century, I guess you would say. Is that what
yeah,
2000s, early
yeah,
2000s? Yeah, yeah. It's something that I aspire to get back to. I think
yeah.
as I creep towards older, being, I need to get some sort of mellow thing going on. All right, so who are some synthesists that you find inspiring that contemporary synthesis. We talked about some of the wonderful music that you heard on radio, but
Yeah.
nowadays the community is definitely a much more defined community in some ways, and I think there's a lot of great stuff coming out, and
Yeah, I mean, there are some people who've actually been around for a while, but I didn't know them. I mean, know their music until recently. But like Suzanne Chiani and Eliane Redig in France, who was, ARP was her thing for so long. And so I've really, even though they've been doing their music for a long time, they're kind of like new to me because it's just within the last few years I've been listening to their recordings and being, blown away by them. Uh, there's a guy who does a lot of Buchla videos, Todd Barton. He does some really interesting things with Buchlas, and I like his music too. I'm trying to think of because I there are more people, um, but I guess I hadn't prepared for that question. So of course half of them are escaping my mind right now. But let me see if some come
we'll come
jump.
back to, we'll come back to that we'll come back to that
Yeah,
question, because I do want to play
yeah,
one more thing before we open up questions to the audience, and and if we have time, maybe get a little peek at how your studio is. By the way, I
sure.
have to steal your clock, so.
Oh, yeah. It's by the way, it just being completely honest, it's a bootleg. It's not an original ARP clock.
Okay,
It's
okay.
an eBay knockoff that I bought. It still works, but yeah, it's yeah. You should have gotten royalties for it that you weren't. So I owe you.
It's all right. It's all right. All right. So we're gonna play one more, everybody. And this I think of this as the double M's, Moog, Mellotron, and also 2600. And again, I'm going to let it speak for itself before I start to comment on my feelings about it. And I hope the audience will have some wonderful questions about this one. All right, let's go. Wow.
Wow.
The audience has come up with some very interesting scenarios for the film that this is the soundtrack for. Very gothic. Definitely come back and look at some of the comments. They're really great. Let me put a few of them up now. I yeah, it was really really wonderful and chilling, but in a good way. Let's see. We have
The
body
thing that's
face.
funny is,
Can you see the comments?
yeah, yeah.
Oh, people are loving this. This is great. This is really great. I'm so glad. All right. So, I would definitely want to encourage everyone to visit Rick's Bandcamp, and we'll have all that up on the YouTube channel after we're done. And you can definitely collect some of his music. Also, people were very excited to see that they could actually see your patches.
Oh, good. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's kind of why I did it because when I first started doing this stuff, that's what people said to me. So, I realize it's like visually boring, but the synth geeks, really do enjoy seeing how things look and all that. So, oh, and by the way, lest I forget, as far as like Bandcamp and YouTube and that kind of thing, the easiest way to find any of that is just to go to my website, which is RiegerMusic1word.com. And it's Rieger is Reger. It's easy to remember because it's a palindrome. It's the same backwards and forwards. So if you go there, there are links that take you directly to the Bandcamp and the YouTube page. So, and I think there's a link to the Spotify thing as well. So that's kind of the easiest way to get there, I think.
Rieger Music, can you just give me the URL again?
It's RiegerMusic1word.com.
Yep. Yeah. There you go. So just if anyone wants to bookmark it now.
Yeah, that's because especially Spotify doesn't have a very good search engine, and you have to like really, if you make like, even if you have a space in exactly the wrong place, you won't find me at all. So
Right. Right. Oh gosh. Well, thank you for that. It was really, really beautiful. Really, really
thank
enjoyed.
you for
Yeah.
playing it.
Yeah. So I did have one question to kind of kick it off, and let's
Hmm.
go ahead if I can go back and find that. Doo, doo, doo. Ah, there we go. From a fellow Chicagoan. What's your basic recording process? Do you capture audio only, or are you using a DAW?
I'm using a DAW mostly. I record the gongs obviously are recorded with microphones. The Hammond organ, the XK3C that I actually have a Leslie 3300 speaker, and I also record that one through using microphones rather than going direct. But everything else is pretty much just direct into the DAW, which is in my case, is Ableton Live.
Okay. Do you want to give us a quick peruse? I want to see that Leslie speaker.
Sure, you mean take you a spin on around the studio?
Yeah. Show us your
Right.
gear.
Okay. Hang on, I have to turn on a little more light, I think. Hopefully, I'm not going to give anyone motion sickness when I do this. So, let me back up a little bit. Yeah, I was practicing that with your. So that's the Fender Rhodes.
Mm-hmm.
It has a vintage vibe, stage vibe rail that replaced the original rail. So if it looks kind of Franken Rhodesy, that's why. But it's a Mach 2 from like 1976. It's got the great sound. And then this is my clavinet, which didn't really get highlighted in the videos. But I just had it recased by Chicago Electric Piano, and they did an unbelievably phenomenal job with that. And then here's the Hammond XK3C organ. And then we go to the synthesizer wall. So there's the VCS3. and then the Mini Moog Voyager, and below that the Mellotron Mk.
Hmm.
And then, of course, the reason we're all kind of here anyway is the 2600. It's one of the ones from 1976 or so. It's not the Korg one, although everyone says the Korg ones are fantastic. So, and then let me see if I can get the
There's the gong.
Gong. There's 32-inch Chinese gong. Sorry, my stool is in the way. And then there's the Leslie cabinet that I played the organ through. And that's pretty much it.
That's a world of options.
Yeah, it's less than some people have, but that's okay because we all know what it's like to have too many options and to be paralyzed by all the choices. So um, this gives me plenty to work with, but also doesn't leave me too indecisive to get anything done. So
There's a theory of creativity that says limitations build more inventions.
I absolutely 110% believe that. I absolutely think that because what it seems to me, is being quote unquote boxed in. That's when real creativity takes hold. So how do you get out of the box? Whereas if you're anything goes, it seems like that's great, and you have tons of choices and you can do whatever you want. But it seems like, to me, this is just my personal taste, the stuff that seems like particularly creative to me is when people find a way to stay inside the box but make it feel like you're not inside the box, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely, absolutely. Limitation breeds creativity, says Mike.
Yeah,
Exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
I agree.
And you know, in I spent many years studying art and art history and teaching art history. And one of the things that was always fascinating to my students was when they learned what the materials were, and when they
Hmm.
learned what options the artist maybe didn't have because of where they were, time period, era, uh, whatnot. And I think what I see now also with synthesis is the same thing. When you, what did you do? How did you make this? What, you know,
Yeah,
and it brings it contextually into another layer of interest. But I always feel it's best to listen first, really listen. By the way,
yeah.
everybody,
Although,
I'm sorry. Go. Hey, I'm
oh no,
sorry.
I was just going to say, we're living in the absolute renaissance, golden age of modular synthesis right now. In the amount of, it's ironic that we're saying this, limitations are good, because the amount of stuff out there now for people who are into modular synthesis, it's unbelievable. Like all the options that are out there and that are available to you. I mean, it's it's incredible, because these things were considered in the 80s to be completely obsolete.
It is pretty incredible. I agree. Um, all right. Any more questions? We are actually getting close to running out of time. Questions, questions, questions. So, while we give that another moment of air about questions, I want to mention that the Eleanor Perlman Foundation is a not for profit. We have a donation link which is on the top of the page, and please donate. This is how we are able to keep the lights on. Also, we have two trade shows that we're very excited about attending in October. I will be in uh, Sheffield, England, in the beginning of October, and at the end of October, I will be in Burbank, California, for Synth Fest and Synthplex respectively. So, yeah, it's pretty exciting, and I hope by then there's a book coming out that's coming out with a Korg uh, oscilloscope kit, and that should be out by then. And some exciting stuff is happening down the line. So please donate. We are both grateful for your continued support and in need of continued support. So, all right, I did the spiel.
Not
Okay.
commercial free.
Yeah. Um, we got another question. Okay, great. Using only hardware instruments. I- What about effects? So I guess that's effects from the DAW or.
Yeah, no, I do. In fact, that's one of the things. Usually, if I'm in the soundscapes where I'm blending non-synthesizer sounds with synthesizers, I often play them through effects. So in a way, I sort of synthesizerize, if that's a verb, the sound of the um, analog instruments. So, for example, like the Rhodes, I often play. I've got a Mooger Fooger ring modulator, which was originally a synth module. That I often play it through. Also got like an overdrive phaser. My clavinet, I've got like a you know uh, reverb chorus, ravish sitar pedal, fuzz, wah pedal, phaser, and often some combination of those things. So I do like to. I don't use so far. I don't use a ton of the onboard DAW effects that come with Ableton, but that's not like any sort of judgment on those things. When I've used them, they've been really great. But I have some plugins for reverb and things like that. So I use some. I don't use a ton, but I do most of the non-synths. If I'm integrating with the synthesizer, I will tend to mess with the sound a little bit.
Mhm.
Hopefully that answers the question.
Right. If I have passed a question by, I apologize. I'm just going back in time. If I haven't mentioned this already, please go back and listen to this through headphones. Really, really, it ambient sound is wonderful and all that, but to hear his music through headphones, really is really special. It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank
Um,
you. Yeah, I spend a lot of time on mixing, so it's extremely nice to hear that.
when I was looking at your patches too, it made sense. Because you're talking about what's on the left and what's on the right, and if you're paying it. Plus, I think
Oh
bevel on the
yeah,
right. Yeah,
yeah. So just to help people identify what's producing what sound. Yeah.
yeah. Okay, all right. So it looks like we're gonna wrap this up. It's 6 o'clock already. That's kind of unbelievable, but it happens. I want to thank everybody for joining us, and uh,
Yeah.
please visit Rick's website and buy original music from artists. Yeah, that's what it's all
Yeah.
about.
Thank you, everyone,
Thank
and
you.
thank you, Dina, for having me on. It's a real honor, like I said.
My pleasure. Our pleasure. Oh, wait a minute. Hold on. Should we squeeze in this one more quick? Yeah, let's squeeze it in. He's up late in France, or she's up late in France. I can't tell who. Alchemy Studio.
Oh, uh, yeah, that's it. So no polyphonic synth. No, it's not a choice. I think I kind of ran out of studio space and money. I've got a good friend of mine who's big in synths, and he's got like really nice. He just bought like the new Prophet 10, or I believe, and he's always on me about like what no polysynth. Yeah, it would be really cool, and there are some really great ones out there, and I have thought about it seriously at times, but no, it's not a choice. It's just like how things have evolved. But yeah, there's some amazing polysynths out there now. In fact, I was playing his Prophet on Saturday night because he just got it, and as soon as I started messing around with it, like the wheels were spinning about like, oh, how I could use this in this way and everything. So yeah, maybe the next time you see me, I'll have one somehow squeezed in.
The studio then and now.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for that last question, everyone. I
Yeah.
definitely have to go. I don't know if you can hear it. My husband's rehearsing downstairs, and I can feel the vibrations through the floor. It's really interesting. I don't know if you all can hear it, which is why I started, putting on
Is,
the headphones. So
is he in a band?
he's a drummer. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, there
We
you
have a
go.
studio downstairs with lots of drums and lots of synths and nothing else. So,
All right, maybe I can get him to drum on some tracks. We can collaborate.
I love it. I love it. That's
Yeah.
great. All right. Enjoy the summer, everybody. I will probably be back at the end of July. I'm also going to be doing some collaborations with an artist, and we're going to have a special show that's associated with that. So, more to come, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.
All right, thank you
Bye
again.
bye.